Space, the final frontier. Space Station Ashland sits on the edge of Federation space with its companion ship, the USS Delamis Christian. The space around them is full of mystery and strange wonders, where secrets are kept and danger lurks around every corner. The crew of the Delamis Christian must navigate treacherous waters as they work to protect the Federation. But as they peer into the unknown, they will discover that the line between friend and foe is not always clear. They will be tested like never before and will face challenges that will push them to their limits. Join us on this adventure as we explore the farthest reaches of space and uncover the hidden truths that lie within the shadows. Tabletop Journeys presents Star Trek Preservations.
Welcome, travelers. This is Star Trek Preservations, our actual play of the Star Trek Adventures RPG, first edition, by Modiphius Entertainment. I am here with our cast. In a moment, I'm going to get everybody introduced, and then I'm going to give us our episode title, and we're going to jump right in with a personal log from our crew's XO. My name, Lewanika. I am one of two GMs for this game, as well as the GM for this particular session. I'm going to start us in the top left of my screen as I see it with the captain of the Delamis Christian. Joe, take us away.
Thank you, Lee. I am Joe Harney. I am playing Commander Sabian Tobor, the commanding officer of the USS Delamis Christian, Saber-class Federation starship.
And our XO?
Hi, I'm Adam Scaramella, and I'll be playing Ocean Chislova, the Andorian first officer.
Glenn?
Hi, Glenn Myers, one of the hosts of Tabletop Journeys, and I play Lieutenant Camdril Najar, a half-Betazoid chief of security for the Delamis Christian.
And finally, for today's episode, our engineer.
Hello, I'm David Rideout. I play Lieutenant Avidian Tenari, the chief engineer of the Delamis Christian, who has yet to figure out how to install the wave motion cannon onto the Delamis Christian.
As a GM, I'm all for that, by the way. All for that. Interlocks are in, and Eager has told us that missiles are approaching. XO, will you take us away and start us off? Our episode tonight is entitled Pari Passu.
First officer's log, stardate 57707.32. We are en route to Celtak IV at maximum cruising speed. We're within a few hours of my home, Celtak IV, and I'm surrounded by numerous challenges. My father on his deathbed, my eldest child in harm's way, and some serious threats to the Federation. Commander Tobor seems to think that there are too many coincidences surrounding this threat for it not to be purposeful. I am attempting to keep a mindset as a foil to that, to ensure that as first officer, I'm keeping open to the possibilities that these are simply coincidences. That being the case, I'm also considering possibilities which are a bit darker than the commander is considering. I haven't seen my father since my graduation, an event which he joked that Ocessa forced him to attend. And while we have exchanged occasional missteps, he's not incorrect that we have grown estranged. I suspect that he still feels strongly about the Ushan that happened at the Academy. And I will confess that I am concerned as to how I will balance my duties as an officer and my obligations as a father and a son. This homecoming will be a challenging exercise for me, proceeding on both those fronts with equal measure.
Excellent. As we open the episode, the shot pans from open space and the Delamis Christian cruising at warp in through the window to the desk where Ocean is completing his log entry. As he finishes, we go to the bridge where an ensign brings a pad to Captain Tobor. The pad includes some basic details on several things that are in process. The ensign doesn't have access to what's on the pad. He just knows it's the message and an update on various things. Captain Tobor, what you would know is that there is currently an ongoing investigation as to identifying the colonists of Celtak IV. This is an undertaking you had previously assigned to your security officer to complete. That is in process. We also have an investigation into identifying the missing ship that you were looking into from the previous episode. That particular investigation had been undertaken by your XO, so that is also in progress. And the pad continues on, indicating your desire to determine some basic details about the Epsilon Protocol and its interaction with the Dalamas Christian. Your specific questions were the when and where, or the timetable of events. How does it actually work? And I believe you'd even posited the deep question and important question, can it actually be removed? And in addition to that, there were some other investigations and or long-term tasks applying the new technology as far as being able to detect Epsilon entities or Epsilon infections to internal ship sensors, external ship sensors, and getting this same protocol set up so that it's capable of being replicated on a planet scale, so you could scan a planet for those. Basically, if you do a life sign readings on a planet or a section of planet immense size, would your scanners be able to pick these things up and such? So those are the various things up to this point that are on the table, and you, sir, have some decision making behind that as far as what the priority is or checking in with whom you'd like to check in. We're going to pause here. Glenn, you had a question?
More of a statement. Another bit of ongoing work that is happening behind the scenes is Commander Tobor has tasked Lieutenant Najar with basically figuring out what the Species Epsilon is after on the Dalamas Christian. So he has been going through everything he can about the way that they entered the ship, which way they were headed, any bits of the ship that don't appear to be right or normal, comparing original blueprints with modifications, and then doing physical examinations of those areas, etc.
Okay. That was one that I had missed in my notes, but I do recall that from the episode.
One piece of housekeeping. As we've been traveling, I would have sent a message ahead to the governor and the chief prosecutor that I have credible threat information of sensitive nature. I will be arriving in system and would like to meet with them.
Okay. And Glenn, so we are looking for what the Epsilon species was looking for.
I was also assisting with that conversation because I was looking behind the scenes to see whether or not we could determine who was involved in modifying the ship.
Okay. Glenn?
One of the biggest, most labor-intensive pieces is going through the original schematics for the Dalamas Christian, as well as known and listed modifications to systems, putting physical eyes on said systems to see if the modifications were made to spec according to the documents that were involved.
Okay, hold on. Give me a second. And what follows that task?
Using his behavioral analysis and investigative training to try to figure out, based on reviewing all comms logs of the conversations we had with them, video logs of them when they boarded the ship, and like directions and places that the ones that tried to escape tried to get to try to figure out if there's a specific area of the ship they were headed.
Okay. And was there a third thing?
If there was, I don't remember it presently, but I'll throw it at you if I do. I will tell you that Najar's personal theory is that they were after the Epsilon Protocol itself to see what defenses we had in place.
Okay. And then, Ocean, you were assisting with part of that, specifically to determine who was involved in the creation and or implementation of self-same protocol measures.
Yeah, who made modifications to the ship.
And
I
you
was
were,
already blocked on that once.
and you were using clandestine measures, is that correct?
I was using the informed.
Yeah. And let's see. So we've got that added on there because that was one that I had missed. Thank you for that, Glenn. We also have, as I said, internal sensors, external sensors, and planetary scanning were also tasks that were in process. Does that cover it all, crew?
Sounds about right.
Excellent. All right, so Tobor, you have a list of all of those things. Obviously, these are sensitive topics, so it's not necessarily open bridge conversation, but you're in the command chair. It is first shift, so your primary folks are all on the bridge. How would you like to proceed? You are 2.5 hours from Celtak IV. Your message has gone out. Your communications officer has stated that it was received, and when you're in system, they'll basically give you a planetary berth where they have stations they would prefer you to dock, as is customary with Celtak IV. And that is more of a security protocol because they have so much underworld activity that one of the major security protocols is everybody docks at one of several stations planet side. They have sensors that detect transports, and unauthorized transports can yield significant scrutiny, even if said scrutiny is more like strongly worded letters to superior officers. They don't like necessarily send goon squads, but these are all protocols that are being put in place. Ocean, you will note that those are all really new. It definitely seems like they are making an effort that they have never made before to clean things up here. But based on what you have heard, it doesn't seem to be working. Like somehow or another, people are still getting through. Things are still happening. Celtak IV is on the tipping point. It's either going to get better from here, or it's going to fall so far back into disrepair, it will be that failed colony similar to where Tasha Yar and her sister came from. This is right on that edge. Like District 9 is on that edge. It's considered somewhat of a failed colony, but the fact that they still have some kind of authority there, the fact that they still allow people to go there will tell you that it is not entirely a failed colony. It is not as bad as Yar's homeworld.
So, Lee, real quickly, when you say dock, is it like physically, or is it an assigned area of space?
There's a station. You don't have an umbilical there, but Starfleet has a different protocol than other ships would. If you were a civilian ship, you would basically be berthed in an area in range of a station which has defensive weapon capabilities. You'll be asked to power down. They will send a shuttle who will do a scan. If they identify an issue, they would board the ship. For Starfleet, they don't necessarily go that far because there's technology that they don't want scanned, right?
Yeah.
But there would be a diplomatic situation where you will have somebody who will come aboard. There are Starfleet liaisons. They are stationed here to make sure things stay on the up and up, that kind of thing.
Not letting anyone scan the Christian, especially until I know what Epsilon Protocol is and does.
I would say this. The Starfleet personnel who are out in these frontier areas are out in these frontier areas. Take that as what you will. Further, think of Montgomery Scott in the Kelvin movies. Like he's just some dude out in the middle of nowhere doing a thing surrounded by non-Starfleet people, right? That's what you're walking into. So there is an official presence. The Federation has some weight, but that weight is very limited by whatever the local government says.
Sure.
So that's
not to tread on them whenever possible.
Exactly. So that's the situation you're going in on.
Looking at the list, what can be accomplished before we get to Celtak IV? I know what the long-range scan sensors modifications was like a long-term project.
So most of the engineering tasks are all long-term deals. They are not things that are going to be particularly easy to address in a short period of time. However, you can, at this point in time, decide the protocol. What do you want the engineering team to work on first? And what would happen in a game mechanic term is whoever you're assigning to these types of things would be able to get at least one roll in on the tasks.
Yeah, I think for this standpoint, we're going to want personal and portable scanners with the Neela Tanari protocol for when we have to eventually go down planet side.
So that is already set up. You have the prototype. If I remember correctly, you had successfully isolated it so it is replicatable. So you can have other devices. There's some time involved. There's been enough time between the last episode and this episode to have a number of them completed. In fact, to do that, I would like each of you to roll, because we won't be rolling them for very long, some challenge dice. If each of you would roll a single challenge die for each engineering pip you have, and I will roll for Lacey.
Are 2 ones good or bad?
That's 2. So Glenn, you had 2, and Dave, if you would be kind enough to jot down the total number. Glenn has 2. How many did you have?
I had 3.
Yep.
1 plus a delta.
Okay. And Adam?
Oh, you want me to roll them as well?
Yeah.
2 dice or no?
How many engineering do you have?
I have 3.
Then you're rolling 3 die.
I rolled 3 deltas.
All right, so we've got a total of 4 deltas. Let me get Lacey's character here. Hang on one second.
Whenever you'd like it, I remembered what the additional thing was for searching the ship.
Okay. I will get to that in just a moment.
So we have a handful of these new scanners, yes?
Yep. Lacey had 4. So in addition to the prototype, you have a total number of how many of the handheld devices, Dave?
You just said Lacey had 4. And then was this roll to determine how many we have? Or
Yes. So each pip was the total number that are completed and ready to go.
okay, so then we have 10.
Okay. 10.
Nice
and there
job,
are
Tanari.
4 deltas. The deltas are going to be reflected in 2 ways. Your tasks relating to the various sensor things, the difficulty will be reduced by 1 because you've been very prolific. Your team has been very good about getting things created, working out bugs. So your work is going to be made a bit easier on those tasks. The other factor is I will effectively give you a bonus momentum on those extended tasks, which you can use at any point to those sensor extended tasks to eliminate a complication that you may roll in the future. So if you mark that as an asterisk, Lewanika may not personally remember that, so that's on you to remind me that you have achieved a success that will allow you to eliminate a future complication. So engineering team has once again knocked it out of the park. All right, and Glenn, you want to go with that other piece?
Yes, the other piece was to work with Tanari in terms of the calibration of the sensors on the Eagle to incorporate the data both for modifications and original blueprints to do in-depth scans of the Christian from outside, looking for anything that doesn't belong, any spaces that shouldn't be there, things along those nature.
All right, Captain Tobor, you were saying?
Yeah, at this point, unless we can actually get the long-range external sensors to incorporate the scanning protocol before we get there, I want to have the security and engineering focusing on identifying changes and where Epsilon Protocol is and what it does in the ship.
Okay. To whom are you assigning that task?
So what it does is to Tanari and engineering, and what modifications were made is to Najar and the security teams.
Okay, so the computer will assist both. In this particular case, we actually have a series of different challenges, similar to a gated challenge, but not exactly. Where Kendall Najar and Tanari, you are looking at several different things. You've got a timetable of events. We have how does it work, and can it be removed kind of question, identifying what, as well as just identifying Epsilon Protocol. This is going to be a fairly difficult task. It's a task difficulty of 4 with a complication range of 3.
Lee, real quick while they're doing that, I would have assumed, but I want to state it out loud, at some point I would have gone into my ready room and everything and sat down with the biometric system and asked the computer to just tell me everything about Epsilon Protocol and the ship and try to log in and avoid all of this. I doubt it will tell me, but I figured before we go through all the rigmarole of tearing the ship apart, I'll just ask and not have this situation like we try to pick the lock. It's the door was unlocked if you had checked.
Okay. So you have the ability, your ready room seals, you see the Epsilon lights go up. You're not in an Epsilon alert, but it is clearly blocking communications. From your station, you can tell that something has locked out the captain's ready room after he went in the room. Based on what's going on, you're pretty certain that it has to do with Epsilon issues, but it's not like he can't get out. It's basically that it has been secured.
Immediately report that to Lieutenant Commander Ocean, and also ping the captain to see if I can reach him through communications, asking if everything is okay, and reporting to him as well what I've seen, what I see.
Captain, on your workstation, you get a text message, basically, that's with what he vocalized. There's no audio communication.
Thumbs up emoji.
You basically have the ability to respond that you are fine, but it doesn't give you the opportunity to communicate any further details.
Pretty much thumbs up emoji.
All right.
Okay, I reported it to Ocean and checked in with my captain. I go back to my task.
Excellent. The computer is still in the standard computer voice, and Captain Tobor, how may I assist you?
Computer, I require a detailed listing and analysis of all subsystems and subroutines based on the Epsilon Protocol.
Such information cannot be provided in written form. Is there a specific subroutine or system you would inquire about?
So, Lee, I go down the list of what triggers Epsilon, why do we think there was an Epsilon incident with the holodeck running, when Epsilon is engaged, what can be toggled on and off, are there multiple levels, is there like Epsilon light, medium, and heavy? Try and interrogate the computer to get a better, fuller understanding of what all is going on and can go on.
Sure. So this is going to be a task with a difficulty of 1. You have some access, a lot of access, in fact. The challenge is it's a program that is specifically designed to not provide more info than is need to know. It's actually geared to not provide useful information. But you happen to be in a position where you have some access so you can get some info. So how much info is what we're really working towards? Yeah, task difficulty 1. I'm assuming this is a reason computers kind of role, unless you're looking to do it a different way.
So I mean, reason command would be what I would try.
Okay.
First. And then I don't have, unless Starfleet Protocol would assist, knowing how to interrogate the computer.
Oddly, Starfleet Protocol will not help you in this situation.
All right.
It should. Every part of you tells you that this is the way to do something.
Yeah.
And in fact, it is that process which is why there's even a role here at all.
All right, so I will spend a threat to add a die since we don't have any momentum yet.
Alrighty.
Actually, I'm going to spend one of my determinations to get the automatic success because the chair is where I belong.
Is going early, firing right out the gate.
And then with that, because that's my first die, my second, so I'll spend 2 threat to buy a third roll die.
Okay.
Oh, man. A 5 and a 9, which, if I had a focus that applied, would have been
a lot of criticals. You have
so 3. Right now, with the dice showing, I've got 5 successes.
Okay, excellent. So we're going to get you all started right off the bat with 5 momentum. And the computer basically gives you some information which will help. Net result is going to be the investigation roll that the others are going to be making will have a reduction in difficulty of 1 is the mechanical result, but I'm going to give you the information as well. You might want to keep that secret, so I will simply ask the other players to not utilize this information unless Joe's character shares it. Some of the other investigations might turn this up anyway.
I would not share it beyond absolute necessary.
Essentially, what you're told is this. Epsilon Protocol essentially utilizes known and recognized patterns that are essential to the Epsilon computer core matrix. Identifies those things in other entities and then begins a series of protocols designed to isolate and destroy any potential threats to the Federation.
Perfect.
And did you have follow-up questions?
So I'll spend the momentum for the question on what was it about the holodeck program that triggered the potential analysis of an Epsilon incident. I want the computer to spit out its logic on how it was thinking.
Recent updates in Starfleet protocol regarding holographic entities indicates the possibility of sentience among holographic entities. Since similar brain patterns were identified in the holographic program, Epsilon Protocol was attempting to determine whether or not this was a simple hologram program or an actual sentient entity that has the ability to produce an Epsilon level threat. As it was undetermined, half measures have been taken. This is the first time in the history of Epsilon Protocol that half measures have been considered and engaged.
Very good. Computer identify holographic program research file Dory Alpha 2 Alpha as safe and allow staff to conduct and continue further investigation without triggering Epsilon.
This tactic is not recommended. Should an actual entity attempt breach by means of holographic entities, or utilizing Dalamas Christian technology within the ship, it could prove to be a vulnerability. Epsilon Protocol is designed to eliminate vulnerabilities. You have the authority to create this vulnerability. Please note that the creation of any vulnerability will be reported to command and backup entities.
Understood. Restrict vulnerability to the one specific file. Maintain protocol for all other holographic files.
In a different voice. File isolation and restriction has been adjusted as per request. Again, you are admonished, Captain Tobor. This is against Epsilon Protocol and highly recommended that you avoid such measures. Do you wish to rescind your previous order?
Rescind order for now.
Your compliance is noted. A commendation has been sent to command and additional entities. Thank you for your adherence to Epsilon Protocol. Are there any other questions that you have of me regarding Epsilon Protocol, sir?
Not at this time. Computer secure from Epsilon containment ready room and return to normal function.
At once, sir. The lights go down. Everything comes back up in all the other areas of the ship, as far as nobody else other than security station and Ocean, your station, because he sent you the information, could have seen that.
He sent me the information as well?
Blended.
Okay.
Yep. But I'll tab my comm badge once the seal is removed. And Commander Ocean, please join me in my ready room.
Okay. I will make my way there. I was incidentally planning on working on very similar thing, trying to look at the timestamps of the holodeck projection to the point in time when the protocol was semi-engaged.
Okay.
So as I come into your ready room, I will still be looking at the pad. So.
You're in the room?
Very good. So I essentially brief you on what I've discovered. And the most interesting thing about that is that there is a computer core matrix. And I'm like, I don't remember one being on any schematic or building plan I've ever read on the ship. So,
do you mention who your actions have been reported to, the way that the computer described that?
I would probably just say command.
Okay, that's important.
Just one note, with the definition of matrices, what that's telling you is it is not hardware. It is entirely software within the physical computer core.
Makes kind of sense. Given what he's learned, is it possible to push forward by looking into the exact thing that the computer locked onto that triggered the Epsilon semi-engagement?
Absolutely. That would be a task difficulty 2.
Okay. And that would be, because I'm looking at logs.
However, since it would be a partial engagement of it, we should leave that until we are in a more stable, safe environment, not 2 hours out from Celtak and actually need to stop the ship and communicate and transport off the ship.
I'm not looking to recreate the holodeck simulation.
I think
would be a record of what it detected and what caused it.
I'll tell you, the holographic entity identified the brain scan activity of an Epsilon creature, but because it was holographic, it decided not to kill everyone on the ship.
Okay. So if that's the case, that's the piece that I want to get, is that brain scan. That's the component that I want to make sure that we're adding into our detector.
Yeah.
Yep. Because to your point, Adam, everything that's been done for your detection has been the biology of the creatures.
Right.
Now you're talking about its brain scans, basically the way the neurons fire and so on and so forth, which is a separate vector in this process, which in theory could refine how that's done, either make it better, stronger, or what have you, and or help filter through various types of interference or whatever, because you're doing two different things to get to the same goal.
I would like to make sure that that pattern is logged on to at least 2 scanners that I expect to take down to Celtak IV on my person.
Make it so.
Just give me the roll. It's all about can you get it programmed accurately in the devices you already have without botching something. Complication range. Yeah, in the time we have. Complication range is standard, but difficulties 2.
All right, so we're looking at, what are we looking at? Engineering on this or science?
It's brain scans. You could even go medicine. I think either one, it's really more about your approach. If you're handling it from an engineering standpoint, it's more like electronic engineering, computer engineering. If you're handling it from the brain scan, it's more finessing the nuance of what a brain pattern is, so on and so forth. So I think you can do it either way. Whatever you're comfortable with would work for me.
And we've established that probably should be reason as well. So.
Yeah.
Don't have a talent in this, but I do have a focus in jury rigging, which may come up later. I rolled a 2 and a 14, so I got 1 success. Do I have anything assisting me?
Computer could assist you in this. Yeah, you're on board the ship. I would say that would work.
Okay.
Dave, would you roll for the ship?
What's my target number?
I'm getting that for you right now. We would be talking computer engineering. So 10 is
systems for a focus. Would it?
You're handling it because you need to identify a threat. So yeah, I would go with security.
Then that's a critical success. So I've got 2 successes.
And 10 would be your target number.
10 is my target number?
Yes.
Okay. 8. Another success from the computer.
3 successes, which gives you 1 momentum if I did my math right. We are at 5 momentum. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 threat. All right, so you have 2 devices that have the additional brain scan and bioscan. That will basically afford you a trait that reduces the difficulty of scanning them by 1. And is that information you're going to share with the engineering team so that
absolutely, yes.
Yeah, all right.
Yes. All right, so you just said this is going to reduce the difficulty by 1.
Correct.
So just so I have our inventory, we have 10 of the Epsilon tricorders. 2 of those have the brain scan.
Yes.
Correct.
And I'm sending you guys the information to upgrade all the others. So let's take a tally. What do we have for the bonuses on those so far? We have what I just added in, the reduced by 1. Wasn't there another benefit that we had gotten through a success?
I think it just gave you the ability to do it. I don't think it created an additional trait that I recall. All right. So XO, you're in the ready room. You've identified some additional information. You've got some new tools. At present, we are about an hour away. Anything else you would like to do at this time, Captain?
Ocean, how are you holding up?
Thank you for asking. I am concerned, but I will be able to focus on the appropriate tasks at hand.
I have to ask the question, though, out loud. Are you emotionally compromised to handle this mission?
I look at you for a moment, ponder the question. No. I recently, after the Zindi seed ship incident, had a conversation with my daughter about not expecting nepotism. And I found myself over the past day thinking about that statement. She is still a member of Starfleet, and I will take that as I would any other member of Starfleet. However, I am considering your suspicions that this is less coincidental than it might seem at first glance. And as such, I'm keeping a mind towards the fact that this could be the exact reason to emotionally compromise your first officer.
I think it would be more to physically compromise us, but right now I am going to talk with the designated authorities and provide them what semi-declassified information I can share based off of your back-channel findings. And to be fair, if you had answered me immediately, I would have been concerned. But the fact that you stopped and checked means that you are not compromised. However, that being said, your particular skill set would be more suited tracking down the lead on the stolen subspace weaponry in the underworld than dealing with... I can have Najar and a team of heavily armed security officers physically secure your daughter's safety. But I do know that when matters come to family, it gets a little more complicated.
That would be appreciated. It will allow me to focus on the investigation as I would have as a constable here.
Very good. I know you have some things to do before we get planetside, so I'll let you get back to him. Mr. Najar, to my ready room when you have a moment, please.
As I leave his ready room, my facial features relax a little bit, showing just a hint of irritation, but I think about it and I nod and move on. As I step out of his ready room onto the bridge, do the Picard straighten of the uniform and just move on. And I will go to a secure comm station and make a call, but I'll let you guys do the other piece first.
All right.
Hi, Captain. And Najar heads towards the ready room.
All right, you're in.
Sir.
Mr. Najar, please take a seat. So I've got some additional intel, at least on the Epsilon Protocol. It's entirely software-driven, is my current belief. So you can restrict your search for a physical computer core component at this time, but continue the other search for what else has been added to the ship.
Understood, sir. In terms of a physical component, I was specifically working with the assumption that I was looking for whatever it is that Species Epsilon was after on our ship.
Indeed. And according to the computer, the partial Epsilon incident was triggered because of the brain scan created in the holographic matrices that aligns with previous transporter log scans of infected Epsilon species that has been incorporated with the known increases of holographic sentience. So that's what triggered the partial analysis and partial lockdown.
That tracks, sir. I had done a little bit of digging on my own around my other project, just trying to get an idea of why the holodeck and everything went off in that direction. And I learned that over the years there have been a lot of holodeck shenanigans that have gone on.
A surprising amount, yes. So please have your team continue on that search, but as we get to Celtak IV, I'll be meeting with the governor and their chief prosecutor to share what information we have. I would like you to accompany me with a small team, and we will begin setting up counter surveillance and defensive perimeters around the witnesses and all the prosecuting individuals involved.
So when you say a small team, sir, do you mean a small team as escort for you, or a small team that we will be positioning in these places for additional security and observation?
The additional
leaving my
security
men
and
behind
observation.
on planet.
Additional security on planet. I believe that Commander Ocean has the particulars of the local geographic region where the residence is. I'll leave it to your expertise to develop the best counterinsurgency, for the lack of a better word, plan and tactics, which I'm sure you've already been working on for the past several days since we've known the information about the threat posed to Ms. Chai Risler and her prosecution team.
Indeed. Do we have any more information as to the origin of the threat, or what we can expect in terms of resistance or attack?
We do
Where
not
the
have
threat
this
is coming from?
other than it is coming from this syndicate that does not wish to see this witness make it to trial.
Understood. And do we have access to the files from the planet and their government and law enforcement regarding the syndicate so that my men can be as prepared as possible?
Do not have that as of yet. Due to the classified nature of our intelligence, we've not been able to share over subspace communication, so that is the primary agenda item of the meeting, which is one of the reasons I want you in it.
Very well, sir. Then the team I select, I'll go with people with a good general mixed set of skills. But since they will be staying planet-side without supervision, I'll make sure one of those skills is people skills in each of them.
I'm sure Deputy Chief will be more than up to the task.
Understood. Anything else, sir?
That's it for now, Mr. Najar.
When would you like to have the team ready?
By the time we arrive in orbit, to be able to deploy after we get confirmation from the governor and local law enforcement is my preference. If they get squirrely, we'll have to deviate to plan B.
Squirrely, sir? Najar says quizzically.
Intergalactic politics is complicated. No one rises to the level of this kind of political situation without dealing with the realities on the ground, shall we say. So there's a not zero chance that there is some sort of mutually beneficial arrangement between the local authorities and the criminal element in which operate in their sphere of jurisdiction. Usually in the past it's been we will tolerate a certain level of low-levelness as long as it doesn't escalate, which makes this odd because usually murdering prosecuting attorneys and witnesses tends to violate that.
That does seem to count as an escalation. And my apologies for any confusion, sir, and that I was unclear. I was inquiring simply because I was not certain what the small earth mammal known as a squirrel had to do with local politics and crime. I just simply didn't get the euphemism.
Oh, yes, it's one I picked up. Apparently it means to be hard to pin down or politically evasive. Apparently that small terrestrial mammal is very quick and hard to catch, even though it is very small.
Understood, sir. Okay, squirrely. And he looks as though he's filing that little euphemism away for later to use wrong, I'm sure.
Very good. Then I shan't keep you. Let you get back to your work, Mr. Najar.
Thank you, sir. As Linajar leaves, the first place that he will go is to his office to review personnel files and begin selecting a team.
Captain to Engineering, Mr. Tanari, how are you doing down there?
Things are going pretty well, Commander. What can I do for you?
Just wanted to get a status update on the sensor upgrade.
It's going, sir. There are some complications, but I think we're working through it.
Very good. I know you likely won't have the ability to get them all online by the time we get to Celtak, but please continue to make that your priority.
Understood, Commander.
Very good. Bridge out. All right. And with that 2 hours remaining, I'll just rehearse my Starfleet Diplomacy 101.
Okay.
I'm going to spend a threat to use the gather information talent, and I have 2 questions. Let me know when you're ready for them.
I am ready.
Okay. The first one is in regards to the new protocols that are at Celtak IV. Since we're in the demilitarized zone, and I'm somebody who grew up when it was very, I don't want to say lawless, but this is new. So they seem a little odd to Ocean. I want to put a couple calls in to my old friends there and see who's actually in charge of this sort of effort and how easily can they be bought.
Okay. And the second question?
The second question is I'm looking for any new activity that around the Ebony Knox, which was the group that we named that stole that.
Okay. Got it. And that comes in the next scene, if I remember correctly, with that ability. Okay. So your calls went out to your contacts, and they will come back to you in the next scene. Anything that you needed or wanted to do before we arrive planet side at this time, Tanari?
Well, do we need to do any rolls in terms of getting any of the sensors online or making
We
progress
can, but I didn't want to stack all of our rolls all in the first scene like I have done previously.
No.
It is not something that would be done in this last 30 minutes necessarily. It is not necessary to actually do those rolls in this moment, but I can certainly see us getting a roll in there to see if you had any breakthroughs and can generate some momentum for the group or the ability to ask questions. So I am happy to do that.
I'm good either direction.
We can squeeze one in. The investigation is a little bit different than turning spanners and such, and with new information in a modified direction, and Najir kind of having a lot of different things that he's doing all at once. We'll get to your roles on that in the next scene, Glenn. But for this scene, Tanari, you are all set to get started. Which one are you going to be working on first?
Let me see. Let us work on the internal sensors of the ship.
Okay.
I think the way I'm going to work on this is I'm assuming in levels of complexity, internal sensors, external sensors, and then the planetary scanning. So let's get the simpler ones working and then work out from there.
Excellent. Your difficulty has been reduced on all these. I actually adjusted the numbers on my end so we won't have to recall that information. Okay. I did remember this time. That doesn't always happen, so we are all set. Respectively, so you're aware, your task difficulties on each of these is going to be 3, 4, and 5. Your resistance is going to be 2, 3, and 4. You have a magnitude of 2 for the first task, 3 for the second task, and 4 for the third task.
You said these difficulties are already reduced for having the crew available?
They're not reduced for having the crew available. They are reduced for the benefit from the previous rolls.
Gotcha.
In that case, with the crew included, we're talking difficulty 2, 3, and 4 versus 3, 4, and 5. And now we are inclusive of all trait factors that are involved. And the work track on the first one is 12. The second one is 15. And the final one is 20. And current complication range on the first one is 0. So 20 is the only complication. All right. So you are all set for the internal sensors.
All right. I assume I'll also have someone be able to roll for the ship to assist?
Yes.
All right. Then I will spend a threat for an extra dice. I assume this is going to be reason engineering. All right. That was no successes. So I will take that bold engineering to get a reroll.
Okay.
There's a 14 for one success.
Okay. And Glenn, would you be kind enough to roll for the ship?
Certainly I would.
And
I would
we
be most honored.
Yep. And we would be rolling sensors engineering in this case. Your target
Big
number
money.
would be 12.
And I rolled a 13.
We have only one success, so we have not much going on. Your team is really working at it. They've got a lot of things going their way, but they're just running into weird blocks with the sensors. The Delamis Christian has some really complicated and involved sensors. It's not like your crew doesn't know how to work with them. It's just that the standard way of inputting these types of things work with standard sensors in a different way than they would work with a combination of high resolution sensors and such. So what's basically happening is the integration just isn't working well. Your team is coming back to you and they're coming up with theories, and they think there's probably a way around it, but it's definitely going to take a little bit more time, a little bit more effort to redress things. There are no complications, so it's not going to be harder next time. It's just the first time at the drawing board didn't quite get you all the way through.
We spent a little bit too much time in the past customizing this ship already.
Yep.
All
You've
right.
done some interesting things with your ship, and so those all have to be accounted for to do more interesting things with the ship. So with that, unless there's anything else that somebody wants to do in this scene, we're going to move to arriving in system.
Next time on Star Trek Preservations.
As the scene opens, the Delamis Christian comes out of warp. She's agitated. She feels threatened by Starfleet, and she's not very happy in general with this turn of events. Sir, we have the planetary substation team online, and we have Lieutenant Commander Januk of the Regional Security Command.